Golly, how rude of me to do a whole video about the worst hair appointment I've had and not even bother doing my hair. That's rude. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Jacy and I have another fun story time for you guys today. If you've been following me for a while, you may have noticed that I haven't been uploading recently. I did take the month off because this is the busiest time of the year for my work and I just wanted to be able to focus on that and not have to worry about uploading. So I took the month off, but I am back and better than ever and ready for some more story times. I want to focus on those moving forward with my channel. One, because I enjoy telling the stories and they're pretty easy to edit, but also because you guys seem to enjoy them, so I'll happily give you guys more. But one thing that I've noticed with story times and YouTubers is that they tell the most outlandish and far-fetched and embellished stories I've ever heard. Like, my Uber driver tried to kill me, or my dentist became my stalker. And it's like, really, Stephanie, your dentist stalked you? Sure, Jan. I don't have any crazy story times like that. Mine are a lot more tame and mundane, but I want you to consider them more of like we're friends that went out to a Chili's and we're sharing a bowl of chips and salsa as I tell you this funny story while we wait for our margaritas, you know? So just consider it more of like I'm just telling you a funny story about my regular life. So they're not gonna be that crazy, but hopefully they are entertaining for you guys. So if you like the sound of that, give this video a thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you know about other videos in the future. So today's story is going to be about the worst hair appointment I've ever had. And no, she didn't burn off all my hair or shave my head without asking kind of story. It was just a normal appointment, but it is the worst story that I've had regarding this, and I thought it'd be funny to share with you guys. So with that being said, let's just get started. So before we get into the actual appointment, I need to give you some background about my hair just so you get a better sense of understanding. So at this point, I had always been straightening my hair. Growing up, I would chemically straighten it, I would flat iron the heck out of it. And it wasn't until my 20s that I was like, you know what, I want to embrace my curly hair. I really want to go on a natural hair journey and get my curls to its healthiest possible state. So I knew in order to do this, I had to commit to never straightening or blow drying my hair ever again and cutting it all off, essentially. So one year I asked my mom for my birthday present to be her paying for a hair appointment to go get a curly haircut. So I went to this specialist in my hometown who specialized in curly haircuts. She was really just the only person in town who advertised that they cut curly hair. So I was like, okay, mom, this is my birthday present. I want to go cut off my hair. At this point, my hair was this ugly gold color. Like, it was just so bad because I was only doing box dye. So she wasn't dyeing my hair. She was just going to cut it. And I told her the shape that I wanted. And she pretty much told me that we had to cut most of it off and that it would grow into the shape that I wanted. So I actually do have footage from that, which I think was so funny because my hair turned out so ugly. I look like a 40-year-old child is the best way I could describe it. Like, it came out so wonky, but I knew I needed to trust the process and understand that it would grow to the length and shape that I wanted. So at the end of this appointment, I was just looking like a hot mess. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but I knew that that was kind of like part of it. And so she says, all right, your total is $200. And I said, what? I looked to my poor mother and I was probably like mouthing to her like, sorry. I didn't know it'd be that much. $200 for just this haircut. All she did was afro my hair out and kind of just cut it in a circle. And I thought, like, what the heck? I could do that. The sticker shock was enormous, especially because it was just a haircut, like not even a hair dye. So that kind of mindset comes into play later. That's why I'm telling you this. So over the next year, I actually wore a lot of wigs because I was just so unhappy with the length and kind of the overall style of it. And I was like, oh, am I making the right decision? I don't know about this. I ended up dyeing it brown. I was just doing box dye at this time. And then I finally was able to grow it out, achieve the shape that I wanted, that I was like, okay, I got there. But now I'm ready to go back to being blonde. But I was still so torn if I wanted to be a blonde or brunette. So I wanted to do something kind of in between. So I went on Pinterest to find some pinspo. And I found some great inspiration photos of exactly what I wanted. It was curly hair, but it was a brown base and foundation, but with blonde highlights. That way I could still have like some of the blonde, but I wasn't like fully going blonde yet at this point. So I was ready to go back to being partially blonde, but I knew I couldn't go to an actual hairstylist because it was a $200 haircut just a year earlier. It would easily be a $500 hair coloring appointment. And I was like, No, 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 I'm far too cheap for that. So I instead decided I was going to go to the Paul Mitchell School of Hair. So if you guys are unfamiliar with this whole concept of beauty schools, basically beauty schools do give services like regular haircuts, hair coloring. They also do like skin things like facials and other treatments and makeup as well. So they do a lot of procedures. Procedures? No. They're not like cutting your face or head. Services. They do a lot of services for you, but for pennies on the dime. And the reason for that is because they're students. They are learning, you know? So when you go, you actually do have to sign like waivers giving your consent that, hey, if they screw up your hair, you can't sue. It's not their fault. They're still learning. So it's a high risk, high reward because some of these appointments are just so much cheaper. And I have actually been to the Paul Mitchell School of Hair. One of my dear friends, Chelsea, what up girl, if you're watching this, hello. She was attending the Paul Mitchell School of Hair and I went to her a few years ago where I was also going from brown back to blonde and she was matching these blonde extensions that I have. She did such an amazing job. It was professional work and I think my total, like for dyeing my full head of hair, and I have a lot of hair, was $100. And so I was like, okay, I need to go back to this place again. I will save so much money. And based on what Chelsea did for me, which I'll leave her Instagram here because she's a hairstylist now in the SoCal area, and it's fantastic, you guys. She did such a good job that I was like, okay, I have full faith that these students, even though they're students, they'll do a great job. It's foreshadowing for you guys. So I go to the Paul Mitchell School of Hair, which sounds pretty fancy actually. It's located in Pasadena and I went in as a walk-in because they would just assign me a student basically. So I get signed to this student. We will call her Jessica because I'm not gonna use her real name. So I sit down with Jessica and right away Jessica is a very meek and shy girl. Like she was very quiet and soft-spoken and you could tell she was like gonna cry, it seemed like. She had one of those personalities where she was just shaking like a leaf. So she asked me like, okay, what would you like done today? And I show her some of my inspiration photos, you know, kind of like that darker brown base with very blonde highlights. So she asks like, do you want highlights or more of a balayage? And I was like, a balayage? What's balayage? Balayage. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. What's the difference? She explains the difference. She was like, so which one? And I was like, I don't know. Just give me this. Like, this is all I want. She was like, okay, I think those are highlights. Like, let me talk to my instructor. So the instructor comes over. And again, I have been to a beauty school like this, so I understand this is part of it. The instructor has to come in and like check in a lot to make sure everything's going right and instruct them on how to do it. So she's taking a look at my hair and she says, yep, you're gonna do highlights. So you wanna separate all the hair, weave out the parts, highlight it like you normally would. You could tell this girl was very intimidated by my curly hair. And even though it was probably just like a standard type of ask for a service, that she was pretty nervous. So that was one thing that I noticed. So she gets to town on my hair and during this, she is trying to converse with me. Now I remember very specifically on this day, I was kind of grumpy. I wasn't in a good mood to talk. And I remember it was because I had to pay a parking ticket. I don't know why I remember that, but I went to this appointment and I just like wasn't feeling like talking, you know? I do this thing when I go to nail appointments, especially where if I don't feel like talking to the person, when they're asking me questions, I kind of just answer very short and I don't really ask anything back. And I hope, this is so mean, but I hope they get the idea of like, okay, she doesn't want to talk. Let's just be in our own little adventure lands of our own brains, you know? So that's what I was trying to do. She was asking me questions of like, so where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from Southern California. What do you do for work? I'm a marketing manager. Oh, very cool. You know, just trying to give the sense of like, I don't really feel like talking, like, let's just be on our own here. But she kind of like kept it going and you could tell she was just not very good at having a conversation because she would do these things where she would say like, oh, like what do you do for work? And I'd answer and she'd be like, cool, cool. So do you have any pets? And I would think, yeah, like I have the family pet sort of thing. She'd be like, okay, cool. So what's your favorite movie? And at this point I was like, okay, either this girl doesn't know how to converse or it's almost as if she has a script she's supposed to do. So I ask her, like I don't ask her blatantly, like, do you have to ask me this? I ask her, I say, you know, being a hairstylist must be hard because you're with a client for hours and hours. Like it must be hard to always talk to them. And that's when she kind of comes clean and she says, yeah, like it's actually part of, I don't want to say part of the curriculum, but it's part of the emphasis of this beauty school that you need to talk to your client. And when she kind of explained it, it made a lot of sense of, oh yeah, like some of these hair appointments last 6 hours. So you have to be able to talk to your client, keep them entertained, and be friends with them, because then you're gonna want them to come back and be your hairstylist. You wanna maintain that relationship with them. And in order to do that, you need to have a fun conversation with them. She just wasn't very good at that, just point blank. She just wasn't very good and natural about it. But once she told me this, that she was essentially getting graded for like the interpersonal connection she was making with me, especially since I saw like her instructor kind of like walking by, keeping an eye on it. I was like, oh, okay, girl, like I got you. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's do this. So I, for one, I think I'm pretty good at having a conversation, and it was too easy with her. Oh man. I just started asking some questions about her, and it was off to the rails where she just was nonstop just talking. Basically, I learned that this Jessica girl was like a single mother. She had a baby really young, and the baby daddy left her, kind of thing, so she had to move back in with her parents. She starts telling me about what a garbage human being her baby daddy is, about like all of the issues that they're having. She starts telling me about how hard dating has been and how she's currently in a relationship with somebody in jail right now. And I'm just like, ma'am, pump the brakes here. Like, you are oversharing a bit too much. But I was able to get all of that out of her. And honestly, it was kind of hilarious because she just stopped asking me questions at this point. And again, I wasn't in the mood to talk, so I was just asking her questions. So it was totally fine. You know, she was keeping me entertained, just telling me about her crazy life story. But I just thought like, whoa, this this conversation took a quick 180. Like, that was interesting. But as she's like going on just telling me about her life, I noticed that she would stop what she's doing, come and walk in front of me. So she would like position herself here so that she could like enunciate with her hands and articulate a little better. And every time she'd do that, I'd be like, Jessica, like get back to my hair. Like, you're making this appointment twice as long, but you're also just letting these chemicals sit in my hair. So I thought it was really weird. So that's just kind of a side story that she just went off about her life, and it was like, it was nuts. She should have a Lifetime movie based on what she was telling me. So the chemicals are sitting in my hair. I have all of these foils in, and it's about time to rinse. And she says, okay, like, we need to rinse, but let me go get my instructor. They need to check your foils and make sure that I did everything correctly. And I was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. So we're just sitting there. She's still talking. And I'm like, 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes. And I'm thinking like, I don't know a lot about chemicals, but I know you're not supposed to just let them sit in your hair for 10 minutes unnecessarily. And this bleach is like, it's an exothermic reaction. So you can literally like put your hand up to my hair and feel the heat. And so I'm kind of panicking of like, this is taking a while. This is taking a little too long, lady. Finally, the instructor comes over and she goes, oh, her foils are done. You should have grabbed me. Like, I was just doing a quick hair cutting demo. Like, just tell me it's for foils next time. And again, this girl's very meek and shy. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, okay, it's fine. Let's check these quickly. So they check my foils. They're like, yeah, she's good to go. Go rinse. Like, go get this done. So she rinses out my hair. And at this point, it had been hours. I have a lot of hair again, and she was going very slowly. That I think the whole dyeing process took maybe like 2 to 3 hours. And the next part was the toning process, which was like another hour. So after the toning part, she rinses my hair, and part of this service is that they style your hair. Like, they dry it, they do a blowout, they'll straighten it, whatever. And so she says like, okay, time to blow dry your hair. And I told her like, no, actually, I'll just leave with wet hair. I'm totally fine, because I'm just gonna style it when I get home anyway, so there's no need. Plus, there was a little bit of like distrust at this point where I was like, I don't trust you with my hair. I don't want to blow dry it right now. I don't straighten it anymore. And I don't trust you to handle my curly hair. So I told her like, no thanks, bye. And she says, oh, actually, I have to dry it. It's part of, I have to show my instructor like the final results. It's part of it. Like, you kind of have to. So I was like, oh, you're right. You know, it's like if this were a test in a regular classroom, your teacher can see you taking the test. But if you don't turn in the paper, you don't get a grade. So I was like, all right, you can dry my hair, but can you diffuse it? Like, can you do it in a curly way? Like, I had spent the past year really committing to that, and I was like, I really don't want to put any heat in my hair. So she goes, let me talk to my instructor, because she didn't know if she could say yes, which I thought was really funny. So the instructor comes over and she says, oh, can we actually use you for a demo to show the other students how to diffuse curly hair? Like, we haven't gotten any curly haired clients in a while. Can we show you how to do it? I was like, yeah, sure. You know, again, it's a school, and I totally understand the concept of these students are here to learn. And I was like, take as long as you need, like, show them all the techniques. Yeah, go for it. Just as long as you're not straightening it, you know? And they never do straighten it. I feel like I'm foreshadowing that. They never straighten my hair, so that's fine. So at this point, there's like 6 students gathered around me. They're all oohing and awing at my beautiful bouncy curls. That was weird. So the instructor starts putting like curly hair products through my hair, and it was so funny because you could tell that they really don't get curly hair people. So she's like, so we have this Paul Mitchell curly hair product, and everyone's like passing it around like, ooh, like, oh, I haven't seen this one before type of thing. So the instructor starts diffusing my hair and starts showing like the technique of it. And at this point I'm like, cool, like the instructor knows what they're doing. I'm totally comfortable with this. But after 5 minutes, the instructor said like, okay, that's how you do it. All right, Jessica, take back over and finish up. So I was like, all right, what can you do? So Jessica's finishing up my hair, she's diffusing my hair. And this is where she starts saying like, I don't want to say inappropriate things, but just very odd phrasing. So she's like diffusing my hair, and this was the first time she's really getting a sense of like how healthy my curls were, because again, I'd come in with dirty, probably like really afro-y gross hair, because you're supposed to come in with dirty hair. And so now that the curls were forming, she was like, wow, oh my gosh, it's so bouncy. Wow, like you have such unique hair. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. I say, yeah, it sounds like you guys don't get a lot of curly hair clients. And so she says, this is so funny. She says, yeah, actually, when you walked in and I saw your hair, I was praying that I wouldn't get you. And she like said that with her full chest. And I was like, okay, ouch. Like, but I get it. You know, my curly hair is intimidating. But the way she says it, and I kid you not, this is exactly what she says because it was so funny. She's like touching my hair. She goes, yeah, because honestly, I'm just terrified of ethnic hair. And the way she said it makes it sound like she has like nightmares of black people. Like, what are you saying? Like, I know that's not what she meant. She meant it in the way that curly hair is very intimidating and she doesn't want to mess it up, and that she'd rather just like avoid having to learn how to do it. And it's like, I kind of get that. It's kind of like me with parallel parking, where I know it might be on the driver's test and I can do it if I have to. It's not going to be perfect, but I could do it. But if I could just avoid it and never have to do it, I'd much rather prefer that. So that's kind of what she meant. But the phrasing of it was, I'm terrified of ethnic hair. I was like, can you say that? Is that allowed? Is that allowed, lady? So I just thought that was really funny. So she finishes diffusing my hair, and at this point, I was there for probably 6 hours, you know, I didn't have anything to eat besides like a big ass mocha frappuccino. So I was just ready to go. And so she's like showing it to me in the mirror, and I can tell it looks awful. It looks awful, but it's nighttime, and I was just like, yeah, it looks great. And she was like, all right, like, you wanna go take photos? And I was like, no, that's okay, but thanks. So I leave my appointment just going like, she wrecked my hair. She wrecked my hair, didn't she? It wasn't until the next day that I was able to wash it and style it how I would style it. And just a reminder, here is what I wanted, you know, brown base with highlights nicely diffused and blended in. Here's what I got. This was the patchiest, messiest head of hair I've ever had. It was as if she took my hair, separated it into like 8 sections, and then just alternated whole chunks of hair of what would be blonde. Instead of going through and like weaving out little pieces, she just went chunk by chunk of blonde. And you could see like how chunky it was. Even though I have curly hair and I tried to like kind of rustle it around as I did on the other side, some parts were just so chunky and so obvious, it was so bad. But I think the worst and weirdest part of this was that she didn't touch my bangs. She did no blonde in my bangs. So it was literally blonde and then just a chunk of brown bangs. It was the weirdest thing, like not even a highlight in there, just didn't even touch my bangs. It was just so clunky, so weird. And the worst part was that because she had left the bleach in for so long, she actually did do a lot of damage to the ends of that hair, which was kind of a bummer. But afterwards, I did go in and I bleached some highlights into my bangs themselves, just on my own. And that kind of like fixed the problem and just made it all look good. So I had this hair for about a year. And as you can see in some of the photos, you could tell that it was still so chunky, and almost the bleach lightened up to almost like a white in some areas. It was very odd, very bizarre. It took me about another year to grow it all out. So I did do a video where I brush it all out and you could see like how white some of the sections are. It's very odd. And the other thing that I noticed just with that appointment is how blonde she actually went. So I wanted more brown than blonde. I wanted blonde highlights, and she just made me chunky blonde. But in the end, I'm kind of grateful for it because I realized, you know what, I do kind of want to be more blonde than brunette. And because of that appointment and the previous one where it was $200 for a freaking haircut, both of those combined made me realize I should just do my own freaking hair. Everybody always messes it up. It's too expensive. I'm going to learn how to do it on my own. And I did. So now I cut and color my own hair all on my own. Not too, just don't look at it very closely, but it's not too shabby. I am totally fine with it. All of those weird white patches have grown out. My hair is healthy and I'm in so much of a better place with my hair than I ever have been. And I'm really grateful that I kind of did learn how to do it on my own. And that without those awful experiences, I wouldn't have learned how to do that. I guess that's the silver lining. I do have some videos of how I cut and dye my own hair. I'll leave those in the description if you are curious of how I do it. But yeah, that's kind of the story of my worst hair appointment. It's a little bit of a caveat of going to beauty schools. However, I would still highly recommend it if you guys are willing to take the risk. I have had really good experiences there, but again, I have very unique and different kind of hair that they may not be used to. But those are such a good, financially sound option if you're not trying to like blow the bank dyeing your hair or getting a haircut, you know? So definitely check out beauty schools, and like you meet new people, you're helping them learn. It's still a really cool experience. I just didn't have a very good one this time. But that's the story for today. So again, like she didn't shave my head, but it was just like the weirdest hair appointment that I've ever had. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope this was entertaining for you. Lastly, I just wanted to shamelessly plug my earrings. My lovely sister started her own Etsy shop, and make sure to check her out on Instagram at Earrings by Jamie. If you're interested and want to get a set for yourself, I really like them. These are a custom pair. She made a green pair just for me, so I love her for that. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram. Again, I took a month off, but I still have like 30 photos to post from that one photo shoot video that I did. So I'm gonna get back to being active on Instagram, so make sure to follow me there and to start voting on maybe some other story times that I have coming up. And I think most important of all, what I wanna know from you guys is, do you like me better as a blonde or a brunette? That's gonna be your assignment in the comments. Let me know if you prefer the blonde, because even to this day, I still consider, should I go back to being a brunette? And I want you to talk me out of it, or talk me into it. I don't know. I can't decide. But thank you guys so much. I will see you in my next video. Toodles! My earrings are from my sister. She just started an Etsy shop called Earrings. Jesus, what the hell? Sorry, Jamie, I messed up your plug.